Thank you, sir. Good evening, everybody. It is 6:32, Monday, June 20th, 2022. This meeting of the South Orange Maplewood Board of Education is being live streamed as well as recorded for storage and viewing on our district website. The public can participate during the hearings of individuals and delegates by signing up at the front door where there's a sheet available, and also for audio public speaks via WebEx on our website. Adequate written notice of this meeting of the South Orange Maplewood Board of Education has been provided to both townships and village clerks, the Star Ledger, the News Record, tapintosoma.net, and the Village Green. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Bonds, please note for the record that Board Member Telesford informed us he'd be late this evening, and with that, can you please call the roll?
Board Member Susan Bergen.
Here.
Board President Thayer Joshua.
Here.
Board Member Alyssa Malaspina.
I think that's me, but I think I'm frozen
Yes.
also.
Oh, no, we can hear you
Is
now.
everybody else frozen? Okay. We were sort of frozen, sorry.
Okay.
Or at least I was.
Student Representative Vanessa Prevalon.
Here.
Board Member Aaron Siders.
Here.
Board Member Arun Vadlamani.
Here.
Board Member Courtney Wingfield.
Here.
Board Member Caitlin Whitletter.
Here.
Board Member Johanna Wright.
Present.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now I'm a little frozen. Give me 1 second. Come on. All right, sorry about that. The school board meeting is a business meeting in public and not a meeting with the public. Oftentimes, it may appear to members of our audience that the Board of Education takes action with very little comment and in many cases unanimous vote. Before a matter is placed on the agenda at a public meeting, the administration has thoroughly reviewed the matter with the superintendent. If the superintendent is satisfied the matter is ready to be presented to the board, it is referred to the appropriate board committee. Members of the board committee work with administration and the superintendent to ensure that members fully understand the matter. After the committee discusses the matter, it is shared with other board members for consideration, and only then is it placed on the agenda for discussion and action at a public meeting. And now, in conjunction with Dr. Taylor, I'll provide a brief overview of the Jefferson School renaming project. All right, Mr. Bonds, I have sharing capabilities, correct? All right. That's all right, hold on. Okay, let's try this again. All right. So let me share and then go to, I think I need to share first and then go to presentation mode.
I think as long as you grab it from the tab.
Yeah, okay. So now if I go here and I go, right. Okay, here we go. Just as background, in August of 2021, Board of Education passed Resolution 4190, which was a commitment to renaming Jefferson School. That came after discussion in new business in both the June and July regularly scheduled meetings, and the board passed this resolution unanimously again in August. The resolution did call for a student-led progress and have names, not named, apologies for that, recommended to the board in June of 2022. Also, for some background perspective, other public school districts in New Jersey have recently done something similar. In West Orange, for example, in 2016, Pleasantdale Elementary was renamed Kelly Elementary in honor of the twin astronauts Mark and Scott Kelly, who went to that school. And also in 2016, Mount Hebron Middle School in Montclair was renamed Buzz Aldrin Middle School after one of their most famous alums as well. In 2020, down in Princeton, the John Witherspoon Middle School was renamed Princeton Middle School, and that was due to Mr. Witherspoon's ties to slavery. In Elizabeth, also in 2020, the Ronald Reagan Academy was renamed Chessie Dentley Roberts Academy. That change was made due to, both to, I'm not going to talk about the first part. I think I got it right. It's due to perceived racism by President Reagan, and also to honor Chessie Dentley Roberts, who was the first African American teacher in that district. And then lastly, earlier this year, the Woodrow Wilson High in Camden, New Jersey, was renamed East Side High, and that was the change was made due to perceived racism of President Wilson. And with that, let's just go a brief overview of the process that took place here within the Jefferson School community. Every class participated in the project. The school community did not want to select a name that was related to either a natural world or geographic location, such as some of the ones we just looked at in the previous slide. They were tasked with brainstorming positive qualities and traits that we value in the school and their community, and then to select one powerful trait or create an acronym or backronym with a collection of traits. And after the acronym was selected, think of people in and outside of the South Orange Maplewood School District community who embody the values we celebrate in the school. Now, I'm just going to go to the acronym, which was legacy. And what's interesting about this, to me anyway, is that each letter had multiple meanings, not just one. So the L, and I won't read all of them to you, but for instance, the L is learned, learning, and lifelong learners. And E, engaged, excellence, and ethical citizens, and on down the line. All right, Dr. Taylor, before I go to the recommendations, I just want to know, have I missed anything from your recollection, your understanding of the project?
No. We shared a pretty in-depth presentation with Principal Hutchinson, Assistant Principal Rivera, and one of the teachers, Ms. McMahon. They did an awesome job of explaining the entire process in detail, along with a few videos and great pictures of the students really engaged in what was just the ultimate teachable civics moment, learning about governance, and you captured it perfectly. The one thing I would say about Legacy School is they also like to name the new Legacy School because of the double entendre there. So the students really made this an authentic representation of their process, and the teachers were just dynamite, and some of the videos were shared with the board as well, in case you'd like to take a look.
Thank you. And with that, we'll move on to the recommendations. First one, late Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who was an American lawyer and jurist, famous for being a trailblazer and champion for equal rights for women, served on the Supreme Court from 1993 until 2020. All of you, just as a note, all of you have the longer version of this. I'm just doing the Cliff's notes in the interest of time, but so I'm just going to walk through the other recommendations as well. Next is Erna Schneider Hoover, who's a CHS alumna, class of 1944, mathematician and inventor whose patent for technology regarding a telephony switching computer was one of the first software patents ever issued, and was inducted into the National Inventors Hall of Fame in Akron, Ohio in 2008. Next is Winnie Delia Bolden, CHS class of 1912. She was the first African-American woman to graduate from Columbia and aspired to become a teacher. She wrote an essay which is entitled "A Plea for the Negro." It's a passionate argument against the suppression of African-American voting rights, which was selected for publication in the yearbook and read by Ms. Bolden at graduation. Amalia Lyle Kearse is the next recommendation, CHS class of 1955. She was the only African-American woman in her law school at the University of Michigan, the first woman, second African-American person after Justice Thurgood Marshall to be appointed as a justice on the Second Circuit Court of Appeals, was also the first African-American woman shortlisted for appointment on the Supreme Court, and was also considered for appointment as Attorney General by President Bill Clinton. The last of the recommendations is Joetta Clark Diggs, class of 1980 at Columbia. Started her career in track and field here at the district at Columbia, won the state meet of champions 4 consecutive years, was a 4-time Olympian, 1988 in Seoul, let me see if I can get this, 1992 in Barcelona, 1996 in Atlanta, and 2000 in Sydney, which competed in every outdoor U.S. championships or Olympic trials between 79 and 2000, also winning 5 outdoor championships. And considered by sports views to be one of America's most successful middle distance runners of all time. So this was the last slide, so I just wanted to share this with everyone. This is from the group who presented last week. They wanted to thank Dr. Taylor and us for this opportunity to participate in this historic project. And with that, I'm going to now, turn it over for questions. I'm going to stop sharing. And slideshow here. No, I stopped sharing here. Okay. All right. Okay, and I will turn it over first to our student representative for any comments on the process or the names or anything to Student Representative Prevalon.
I have no comments at this time in the slides.
Okay, thank you. We can come back to you at the end if you wanted to, based on anything else that you hear tonight. All right, we'll now go on to Board Member Vadlamani, followed by Telsford, and then Winkfield.
So my question has less to do with the actual name itself, but the process in which we will approach this. So once we could clarify that, that would be great. Thanks.
So I believe that when the board first made this consideration, our solicitor confirmed that it's within the board's rights to rename any school for any reason in the school district, and a simple majority vote in your formal board meeting would make that happen. Once that occurs, then behind the scenes, our team and the team of Jefferson would begin to do all the steps that make that rebranding possible. It includes some formal notification of the state because there's state reporting connected to those school names. It's called the CDS report, and that's also how we do all of our October 15th reports, our high-stakes exams, our attendance pieces, all those compliances. And we would also work with IT to ensure that all of our internal systems recognize that change because of all the historical connections in our databases to names of schools and codes and those type of things. And of course, I've already spoken with the PTA and HSA leaders of what could be the former Jefferson around their branding as well, because they assist with that, right? So the T-shirts, and we would want to make sure that we work to make it the celebration that it deserves to be. Did I miss anything, Ms. Butler? Thank you.
Yep. All right, thank you. Next is Board Member Telsford, followed by Wingfield.
I guess my question is, what will we do, I guess, to memorialize the name Jefferson, I guess, at the school? What will be left in terms of, what if you do rebrand it, what will we do about in terms of retiring the name?
So I've seen this done in other places where historical pieces were left in the school to honor those former students and former staff members. I think that that would be a further conversation in FFT to discuss what is possible, to look at what the board's will is with that. There are lots of options, even thinking about the signage inside the building and outside the building to memorialize this shift. There could always be consideration on memorializing the former name and those students who went to school there under that name.
Just one comment on that. Like, we're sitting in, we call this the district meeting room inside the Board of Ed building, right? But outside, still etched in stone, is Fielding School. So I'm not sure, if we're looking to, erase that facade as well. We haven't done it here. The Newstead School is still etched in stone up at the annex. So, well, obviously the signage at the front of the door should change to whatever the new name is going to be. But I don't know if we want to go all that. And maybe that's just a very simple, ineffective way to honor, to recognize the historical precedent while also moving forward.
That's definitely a consideration. It depends on, again, I think, the reflection of the former name, and also we just, for the most practical pieces, we want to make sure that our emergency responders know where to go, that new parents know where to go, and those type of things. But we see it all the time when school names are changed. There's a historical piece that's kept, whether it be a plaque inside the schools or pictures of the former students in front of their placard that had the former school. We will make sure that there's a creative solution for consideration.
Thank you. Board Member Wingfield, and then Board Members Wright and Bergen.
I don't have questions, but I definitely wanted to express my gratitude to the entire Jefferson community, the administrators, for just creating such a thorough and inclusive experience for young people to get to really dive into the exploration of these really worthy candidates. It just seems like it was a great process all in all, and to create a process where every single child had the opportunity to participate and have their voice heard, I think is no easy feat. And I'm just really grateful for the way that this was really carried on. I think that these are all really worthy and exciting candidates, but there's one that really stood out to me as I reviewed the packet. And as I think about what even brought me and my family to this district, what I feel like we're sort of known for far and wide, is really instilling in our young people this spirit of going out and making a difference and making their voices heard. And I think it's something that we experience when we engage with students all the time in this district. It's something that I think educators really work to cultivate and create space for. And so for that reason, Winnie Delia Bolden really stood out to me as a candidate that was not only inspiring, but really revolutionary. We talk a lot about the importance of representation, and to be not only the first African-American woman to graduate from Columbia, but to do so in 1912, 110 years ago, and to read an essay like the essay that was shared with us at her graduation at that time, to me really embodies, I think, what we're trying to instill in all of our young people in this district. And so for that reason, I think it really stood out to me and would be a wonderful, wonderful tribute and legacy. And I would love to have even our youngest learners really begin their journey in our district in her honor.
Thank you, Board Member Wright, and then Board Member Bergen.
Good evening, everyone. I'll pass for now. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Board Member Bergen, and then Board Member Whitletter.
Thank you. I just wanted to say that I was on the committee that got to hear straight from the team at Jefferson, and I feel so fortunate that I got to hear their presentation. They took the idea of involving students and then renaming and implemented it in a really beautiful way, turning it into a lesson plan for the entire school where students got to write and share the stories of their own name. And we could just feel the excitement of the staff and the students listening to them talk about this project. And I also wanted to thank them for bringing us 5 great candidates. I do have a preference for it to be an alum of the district, which narrows it down a little bit. And I also love the idea of the Winnie Delia Bolden School, or even the Winnie Delia Bolden Legacy School, because that essay that she wrote is still so relevant today, and she demonstrated such bravery in writing it and publishing it, and reading it at her graduation. And to put it in a little perspective, she graduated from CHS less than 50 years after Juneteenth, and a few decades before Browns versus Board of Ed. And I feel like she is like our district's Ruby Bridges, and it would be just an amazing thing to name a school after her and to celebrate her in our district. So she would be my first choice by far. I also, I think my second choice would be the Amalia Lyle Kirsch School. But the students did such a great job, and I feel like we can't go wrong with any of the names that they picked.
Thank you, Board Member Whitletter, and then Board Member Siders.
I'm laughing because it's sort of a 2-part question, and I know we're supposed to only ask one question, but really quick, just did the students who ultimately came up with the 5 candidates, did they have the opportunity to sort of circle back on the project and present to the Jefferson students to bring it sort of for full circle? And then the other question that I've just been thinking about as everybody's speaking is, could we extend this lesson in physics one step further and bring the final voting or determination to the community to make the final decision on what the name should be out of the 5 candidates and the name that was listed?
So I'll answer the second question first. Whatever the board decides is what will happen next. So when we would discuss this early in the fall, the idea to make this a student-led, authentic, civics experience came from this discussion, right? And this is the result of that. And now what happens next is up to the board. There's no mandate that the board, quote unquote, do anything, right? Because there's a name in place, it's recognized, et cetera. So if there's a motion to make this a vote of the community and it was supported, then that could occur. Looking back at the slides for question number 1 around, did students circle back around to the entire school community? I see on slide number 22, when it says that students presented their arguments in favor of their candidates, and then students selected one favorite candidate overall and one favorite candidate from within the SOMSD community. I don't see any note around a re-presentation of the results. I do know that we were very careful in discussing with the principal that we have to be honest and tell students we want to hear your voice, but ultimately it's a board's decision, right? And so I think that they would be very excited if the board picked one of their choices, but again, it's a board selection. And I can get the answer to that question for you. Yep, thank you.
Thank you. Board Member Siders, and then Board Member Malspina.
Hi. I want to, can't hear me? All right. I want to commend the building leadership, the teachers, the students for this process. I thought it was very thoughtful, very deliberate, that the students came up with some fantastic options, and no matter whom is chosen, or if we go with something else, I would like us to be able to acknowledge these choices in some way, whether it's commemorated in the building, or, you know, have some kind of project that other schools also learn about these 5 options. So I don't have a favorite at this time, but I just wanted to acknowledge the work that was done and that the students did an amazing job.
Thank you for that. Board Member Malsmina.
I also would like to echo the statement that I'm impressed with the job that all the students did. I think the administration really took this and ran with it and made it a great project. And I thank them so much for that. I would like to then make a motion to have the community make the decision, because I really, I all of the options are so good that I don't feel like I should choose. That, you know, it really should be left up to the, you know, that the 7 of us or 8 of us, or sorry, however many, 9 of us, sorry, here make that decision, that it really should be the community that makes the decision. And then I feel like that could be the learning lesson, because then even if it's not just the community or just the students of the community that make the decision, then we can take that and move it forward. So it could be that lesson that then everybody understands why these were the people chosen, and really make this into something that the community can get behind. Though I personally would not have asked for us to switch the name. I was not part of the decision. I wasn't at that meeting when that happened, but we are where we are now, and so I would love to see it become a community voting thing.
Thank you, Board Member Malsmina. I'll say that as looking through, I've heard a couple of things as everyone's been discussing. As I looked through it over the weekend, the one that stood out to me was Amalia Curse, and just that, you know, as a Black woman who was, you know, very successful very early, you know, to be, you know, her late 30s, early 40s, and be this, to be the judge on a Court of Appeals at that age, and then, which is an amazing accomplishment, but then, you know, to see some just getting overshadowed, or maybe not overshadowed, but overlooked when Supreme Court nominations will come up, and to be, you know, maybe passed over may not be the right term, but to be considered 4 times but never actually selected, you know, resonates with me, you know, in the fact that, you know, 2022, some 40 years after her first, her ascension to her current post, we finally had an African-American woman selected as a Supreme Court justice, selected and confirmed. So that was the one story that stood out to me, I guess, as a resonation with where we are currently. And part of me just didn't want to see us have another, you know, have an opportunity to honor her and then pass her over again. That said, you know, there are 5 amazing choices here. I do want to echo everyone else who did say, you know, I thought this was very well executed, very well put together, and we should continue the discussion. I think I did hear the idea of, or for several people, about turning over to the community. I just have an idea. 2 things. Number 1, there's a time. So what we would have to do is, I guess, think about, number 1, the time constraints, or not time constraints, but if we are trying to get this done in September, there is a time constraint. If we're trying to just push it out a little bit, then that's also reasonable, just so that conversation can continue. Just how do we involve, you know, what is the community? How do we involve the community? We only can reach, you know, the folks that we have access to. We hear that all the time, that, I didn't know something was happening because we only have, you know, district parent email addresses and things like that. So I just want to make sure that when we do, if we do go in that direction, that we're really, you know, working with folks to ensure that we can reach out to everyone and then figure out what sort of system that is. As part of the research that went into the original decision, we did look at how other districts had come to those conclusions. And most districts, the board did make that the board took a recommendation from whether it was a panel or a community group, or not a group, some sort of panel or committee. And when those were presented, they took action based on that. So I probably just said a whole lot, but I'm just saying the things that are coming up as we're discussing it, but I just want to continue discussion for a few more minutes. And I see hands from board members Bergen and Malaspina here, and then Whitletter, backwards. Board member Bergen first, then Malaspina, and then we'll come back here to Whitletter.
Oh, thank you. I just wanted to say that, last, I guess it was August, the board passed 8-0 a resolution called Commitment to Renaming Jefferson. And I just want to make sure that we don't lose sight of the fact that we committed to doing that. And if we do put this to a vote, either in the community or in students district-wide, that Thomas Jefferson not be one of the choices listed in that vote, that we present the work of the students, because the students really poured their heart and soul into this project. And I think it would be really dismissive and disrespectful not to go forward with one of their ideas at this point.
Thank you. Board member Malaspina.
Thank you, board member Bergen, but I don't think anybody was saying that we would be including Jefferson in it. It was clear that there was a vote taken, but I do believe that we should look at ways. This is a great civics lesson, and that I really think we could work with both towns. We have our committee that is works with the two towns, and I think that this could be a great way to have a civics lesson and involve the students of the whole district, that they could be involved in important, and it's important. And I think if we're going to do this, we really need to get the buy-in for everybody, because that's what it's about. So I think as much as we can do that, the better. So I would love to see us have the administration, or if we need to, work within the committees we have to be able to make this into something that is a community event.
Thank you. Board member Whitletter.
So what are the steps from here? Like how do we proceed going forward and making a decision? Do we make that here at the table in terms of our next step, or just, and then the other thing is, I do think bringing it to community vote, having attended the Hall of Fame event and seeing all the people, the incredible people that have come through these halls, it's really inspiring, and, gives me a sense of pride that my kids are going to be going to this district as well. So in thinking about this and all the people that we just learned about, it would be great for the community to weigh in and also learn about these individuals, because it's really important that we share that history too.
Board member Valamani.
So I'd like to push back against involving the community out here, because the way I see it is that we are elected representatives of the community. We cannot be punting every question that is emotionally charged or a little bit difficult back to the community. We've been elected. It's a tough choice. Some people obviously think otherwise. We should have a vote, and we should vote it. It's just as simple as that. I mean, we can take recommendations from everyone, and the kids of Jefferson have done a fantastic job of coming up with the recommendations, but we are not bound by any of those recommendations. And I would also like to point out that we are not bound by any vote taken by the previous board. I mean, we are independent board. We are sitting here, but we will take the decision. And I feel very strongly that we should take the decision. It's okay. I mean, we don't want to punt it back by having a referendum and have two towns vote on it and, decide next year. That's my view on this thing.
All right, thank you for that. I guess my concern about sending 5 names to the community is that we don't get a consensus. It might be hard enough for the 9 of us to get consensus around 5 names. I imagine it'd be even harder to do that with, up to 40,000 people. So at a bare minimum, if we were to go in that direction, I'm hearing both sides of that argument, I would, if we were to go some sort of public vote, or, just open it up to the community, I think we would at least owe it to them to knock it down to 2 or maybe 3. Because I think sending them a list of 5 and telling them to pick one, unless you're doing ranked choice voting, I'm not sure that we may not, if something wins with 26%, what does that kind of mean? 74% didn't want it, right? So there are a little bit of ways around that. So that would be the one hesitation I have about just taking these 5 names and just saying community, there you go. I agree with somewhat with what Board Member Valamani said about, the original intent was for the board to have a decision based on the recommendations that were presented to us. So with that in mind, I do have a little bit of, not second guessing, but like I said, I just agree with that. But I do recognize that for some, that there's an idea that there should be a broader conversation, which I'm hoping that we are having right now. Board Member Winkfield, and then Telsford, and then Malaspina.
Just briefly, I want to sort of echo that support. I really like the idea, Board Member Whitletter, about sharing more widely some of the work that the students did, so that the larger community has just an understanding of the process. I know some of that obviously is shared through this public meeting this evening, but I also know that, there are other ways that we can get that word out. And I think that is also another way of really lifting up and honoring the work that the students engaged in. But I also agree with Board Member Valamani and that we're represented to sort of represent our community in that way. And I think that it's an appropriate way for us to be able to use that elected power to be able to exercise that vote. So I like the idea of doing both, where we still share the work that the students did and really giving the community a deeper understanding of who these noteworthy candidates are. But I also think we need to honor the process and close the loop in a relatively short time span, because I think some of the things that Dr. Taylor lifted up around both the sort of facilities implications as well as some of the implications for the state around reporting are very real. And I don't want us to inadvertently create some real hardships for the school and for the district in general through dragging this process beyond, the end of next week.
Thank you. Board Member Telsford.
I actually can understand the idea of opening this up to the broader community, because it is, I guess, we do talk about new legacy, but there is a legacy also for the entire community. So I can understand the push for a new name, and I actually love having the first African American female student receive that honor. But I also recognize the fact that there's a grand history here, and I think opening it up to the community, maybe not by saying pick one of the best name, but ranked choice voting would probably be a good way to go about that. I guess that's just my comment here.
Thank you. Board Member Malaspina.
I agree. I think ranked choice voting is a great civics lesson for our students to learn about the idea behind ranked choice voting. There is nothing saying that we need to do this right away. I'm not saying we delay it forever, but I think that this really could become a great lesson for the community as a whole, so that everybody can understand all of these incredible people and that the work that these students went into doing it, and allowing the students themselves to vote on it so that everybody is there. I get why we, with the reporting and all of that, I understand all of that, but it's not like we have to do it tomorrow. We have to do it tomorrow if we chose not to involve the community, but if not, there is nothing saying we can't make this a community event. And I do need to push back a little on Board Member Valamani's statement that we don't have to abide by what the old board said. That's not how things work. We are built on boards. We don't just ignore everything that's previously been said or done. And in this case, even though it's not something I fully agree with, I am going with the majority on this, and we're going to move ahead as that.
Board Member Bergen. Thank you, Board Member Mouseman. Board Member Bergen.
Thanks. I just wanted to say, I think that opening this up to a community vote would, there would be a million questions to answer to figure out how to do that. How old do you have to be to vote? How do we reach people who don't have internet? How do we do it, in multiple languages? How do we make sure people don't vote more than once if we have it, in some sort of online system? And on and on and on. And I think people are also getting ready to move on with other plans for the summer and not be around for this. And that students are probably watching this discussion right now, excited about the ideas that they presented to us. And I don't think that this is something that we need to, drag on, because we had made a commitment to doing this for the fall of this year.
Thank you. Board Member Telesford.
I guess I just want to say that I will push back against this idea that we are bound by what previous boards have done. Previous boards have made decisions, we can review those and we can change them. In this case, I think it will be what the majority wants to go forward with. If the majority wants to go forward with a name change, I say let's do the name change. If the majority wants to do some sort of voting with the public, we do that. If the majority says no, let's just keep the name, let's do that. But we are the board, the current board, we will make that decision.
All right. Thank you for that, Board Member Telesford. Board Member Wright.
Wow, you almost took the words out of my mouth. I think that it would be a wonderful thing to be inclusive. The board ultimately does have the vote, but it would be wonderful to hear what people think about these wonderful choices of names that these young people have come up with, and to hear from people, allow people to weigh in. And we'll see, we'll just have to see what happens. I'm just really digesting, the names and things of that nature. They're all wonderful, wonderful, wonderful people. But I think that we should not shut down the community from having some thoughts, or whether it's we don't want to do this again, we've changed our minds, or whatever it may be. We should be open to listen, but we know that the ultimate decision will rest with this Board of Education. But I think we should look at this not with tunnel vision, but with periphery. And I know how I would feel if I were not a board member and I'm a member of a community, and I had a daughter to go through Jefferson School. I feel a connectedness, and I'm sure others do as well. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you for that. Board Member Mouseman, and then Telesford.
My hand was previously up. I'm motioning that I guess we at this point got around, so I'd like it if we could maybe vote on if we should move to having a community input. And then I would be happy to help in whatever way possible if we move in the way of community voting, to make that possible and help out with that.
Thank you. Dr. Teller, you'd like to respond?
Yeah, I'd like to give the board an executive session update on this before you took any action, just so you have all the information that's available that may not be discussed in a public setting. So that would be my only request. And again, we support the board and we want to make it happen for the board, but I just want you to have all of the information.
All right. Seeing no more hands at this time, we'll close discussion and it will. Oh, I'm sorry.
So-
I missed. Go ahead,
Sorry,
Board Member
can
Willetta.
we make a motion to take this to vote for the community? Because,
I think we need to hear how that would work before
Pardon?
I think we need to hear how that could work before we make that vote. But yes, we will, because I feel like people may not have the information to have that decision right now in terms of who's the community, right? Is it the school? Is it the district? Is it anyone in the 2 towns? Is it anyone who lives or works in the 2 towns? Like, what does the community mean? So we have to hash some of that out before What I will say is, obviously, we're not making a decision tonight, and that was never the intent. And that, I think the intent of tonight was just to give the community an update on where we are in the process. We have 5 wonderful names, and we're trying to determine next steps. We have 2 more meetings this month, so I know we'll be able to provide more updates, within this month about where we are in the process and what's next, okay? And with that, I'll close discussion here. I think next is public speaks. Yep, all right, we are now, where are we? We're now at the time for hearings of individuals and delegations, those public speaks. It's an opportunity for you to share your concerns about an item on the agenda, but not a time for dialogue with the board. The board requests that you state your name and the time of your residence for the record. We will set the time to 3 minutes for each speaker, and we ask that you respect that time limit. We must cut you off so it does not appear as if we are giving anyone an advantage to share their views over another individual. Speakers have the full protection of free speech during public speaks. However, this forum does not protect you from the subject of your free speech pursuant libel or slander charges. And finally, the board recommends that all members of our community pursue the chain of command. Our first public speaks is from James Nathanson.
Should I put a chair?
Mike. Mr. Vines, you got the mic.
Okay, thanks. Just one question before we start. I timed my comments to 3 minutes. I'm asking if I could have 3 minutes.
You have 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you. Tell me when I start. Good evening. My name is James Nathanson, 33 Durand Road, Maplewood, 41-year resident, parent of a former Jefferson School student. The community awaits your decision regarding the renaming of Jefferson School, but I come before you this evening simply to reiterate my opposition to that action. Last fall, I submitted to you a lengthy essay explaining my views. That essay was reprinted in the Village Green and received wide attention. I subsequently circulated it to the newly elected board members and then again to all of you yesterday. I urge you not to proceed with this action. I believe it would be a grave misreading of the central role of Thomas Jefferson in American and indeed world history. I remind you that both Abraham Lincoln and Martin Luther King were firm admirers of Thomas Jefferson. I remind you that each of you, in a personal way, is the beneficiary of the arc of history which Jefferson initiated. In 1776, when 56 white men signed Jefferson's Declaration, none of you would have had the opportunity to hold the positions of public trust that you hold today. And yet, with your skills and abilities and willingness to serve recognized, here you are, and we as a community and as a nation are better off for it. The eminent black economist Glenn Loury has observed that the story of America is not slavery, which in 1865 had been a feature of nearly every society going back into antiquity, but rather the abolition of slavery. The evils of the institution of slavery need to be told, and Jefferson's complicity in it needs to be told. But notwithstanding his personal failures, the ideals to which he gave voice in his declaration have inspired hundreds of millions. Those words today indirectly motivate the freedom fighters in Ukraine and the immigrants we see from Central America and around the world. Those words set in motion a series of events, the culmination of which we celebrate today as Juneteenth. Our history as Americans, indeed all history, is not smooth or easy. But there has been an arc of history in America that has led in fits and starts to ever-increasing liberty and equality. Abraham Lincoln and Martin Luther King understood that it started with Thomas Jefferson, and you should understand that as well. In my essay, I asked questions regarding the broader implications of such a decision. I hope you've considered those questions. I made suggestions regarding alternatives which address the concerns raised by those who initially motivated this action. I hope you've considered them. Maplewood and South Orange have high profiles in matters of race. A decision to rename Jefferson School will reverberate far beyond our borders, and I fear that the board and our communities will look foolish and extreme. You will be doing something that not even the most progressive city in America, San Francisco, has done. Worse yet, you will be doing a grave disservice to our students who deserve to understand the arc of American history in its fullness.
Thank you, Mr.
Without a
Nathan. Your
polemic
time is up.
overtone. One more sentence. In summary, I hope you will have the courage to reverse your initial decision and pursue
Thank
a
you,
better
Mr. Nathan.
course.
Your time is
Thank
up.
you.
Our next public speaks is from, we're now moving on to audio public speaks, and our next public speaks is from Leslie Kerner.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. You have 3 minutes.
Okay. Thank you. Leslie Kerner from South Orange. Second time Jefferson parent and the president of the President's Council was Marshall's. For this
Excuse
decision.
me,
and I am-
Ms. Kerner, you're
Yes.
breaking up. Can you, we'll pause the clock. Just, you're breaking up. Can you try again?
Yep, can you hear me now?
So far, so good.
Okay. Can you hear me now? Sorry, trying to move to a place.
Yes, we can.
Okay, so Mike, do you want me to start over or you heard who I was and everything?
But you probably should start from the Jefferson parent piece.
Okay, I'm a two-time Jefferson parent. My youngest is a fifth grader at Jefferson. And I was the president of Marshall School PTA, and I'm the president of the President's Council. My comment tonight is about the decision-making process, and I implore the BOE to take a swift and decisive next step with respect to the new name of Jefferson. I hope that you can, as elected members, as has been discussed tonight, take this seriously. This was something that was committed to. It's something that our students and staff have worked very hard at. And I think that as a leader, one of the worst things you can do, as you all know, is to ask for input and then not take it, or to change the game at this point. I think if we're trying to teach a civics lesson for our children, it's important that they understand that their voices can and will be heard, and that their decisions are not just taken lightly and then thrown to the room. Our community also, as we know, much like our country, is fairly fractured around this decision. If it goes out broadly again, I'm sure we will hear dissenting voices, and I'm sure that will put us into a position of not being able to make a decision, which I think would be detrimental to, again, our students, our staff, and more practically, our district and our PTAs and all the organizations that have to live with these decisions. So just in closing, I will again implore you to make a decision in this manner, and then to use the broader community for the implementation and rollout plan to create excitement and to create buy-in across the community. I think we can continue to involve our students and our staff to do that, and the Jefferson community especially, and then going more broadly. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Our next public speaks is from Erica Malgeri.
I do not see that community member on.
Okay, that concludes our public speaks. I'd like to make a motion to belatedly hold this meeting in a hybrid manner. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Board Member Siders. All in favor? That appears to be unanimous, Mr. Burnside. All right, before I make the motion for exec, should I now since we're closing the public session, make the motions for next week, right? Okay, great. All right, the Board of Education will meet in closed session Monday, June 27th at 6 p.m. in the superintendent's office at 525 Academy Street in Maplewood, as well as using an online video conference platform. After a closed session, the board meeting public session Monday, immediately following closed session, the board meeting public session Monday, June 27th at 7:30 PM at the district meeting room, 525 Academy Street in Maplewood, as well as using the online video conference platform. Action will be taken. The Board of Education will be meeting in a special public session Wednesday, June 29th at 6:30 PM here at the district meeting room, 525 Academy Street in Maplewood, as well as using the online video conference platform. Immediately following the public session, the board will meet in closed session to discuss the superintendent's evaluation, and that will be in the district meeting, the superintendent's office, 525 Academy Street, as well as using the online video conference platform. Action may be taken. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Board Member Siders. All in favor? All right, that appears to be unanimous, Mr. Burnside. I'd now like to make a motion to adjourn this meeting at 7:28 PM, Monday, June 20th, 2022. May I have a second? Thank you, Board Member Winkfield. All in favor? All right, that appears to be unanimous, Mr. Burnside. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful evening.
Wait, are you sending us a link?
I did already. I'll send it again. Thank you.
Okay, can you send
All
it
right.
again?
Okay.